Joining us now, a man who hopes to live there someday, Republican presidential candidate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Governor, good morning. It's good to see you. Let's get right to the day's news. We have a trial date set now for Donald Trump in this federal election interference case, March 4th, the eve of Super Tuesday. Obviously, a very busy day on the eve of that big Super Tuesday primary and caucus event. So what is your reaction to the timing of this trial?
Well, look, Willie, as you know, I served 7 years as the U.S. attorney in the fifth largest office in the country, and we did over 130 public corruption cases during my 7 years there, and we were 130-0. So I understand the way these cases work. This is a relatively straightforward case. It's just one defendant. It's essentially 4 charges, and the idea that they have another 6 months to prepare for trial would be a normal situation in the District of New Jersey, and I think in probably almost any federal district of any size in the country, and usually, this is the way these cases work. So I'm not surprised by the date. I thought the 2026 request was ridiculous, and when your lawyer's going to make requests like that in front of a judge that they patently know is just ridiculous. It doesn't curry any favor with the judge in terms of the seriousness of the arguments you make. So I think it was a bad strategic move. I'm convinced it was driven by the client, not by the lawyers, as most of the bad decisions on the Trump legal team are driven by. And now they've got a March 4th date. And, look, I think the thing for Republican voters to think about out there is this guy is going to be sitting in a courtroom starting on March 4th for probably 6 to 8 weeks, depending upon the length of the defense case, but at least 6 weeks, every day. Not out on the campaign trail making the case against Joe Biden, which is what Republicans should be doing every day. We simply cannot expect that someone who is facing this number of criminal trials, and quite frankly, the conduct that underlies those charges, can be a viable fall election candidate against Joe Biden. And if we lose to Joe Biden, Republicans need to understand that we're going to be looking at a packed Supreme Court. We're going to be looking at the end of the filibuster and a number of other issues that folks like me and the rest of the folks in our party can't have. So I'm in this race because we want someone who can beat Joe Biden. And on that debate stage Wednesday night, Willie, I was the only one on the stage that's ever defeated a Democratic incumbent in an election. And I did it in a very blue state, being outspent 3-1. So that's why I'm the guy who can beat Joe Biden. And this trial date for Donald Trump just makes it even clearer that he cannot be our nominee. If he is, we're going to lose the election.
And it's just one of several trial dates next year. We've been showing this calendar this morning, Governor, of just how busy it is. This does not even include the Georgia trial, which we dropped somewhere in there. Last time you were on, we talked about polling that has Donald Trump still way ahead. But we want to talk about state polling, because this morning the AJC has one. That was kind of national polling. The AJC has a new poll out this morning, Georgia, after everything that's gone on, after the mugshot and the booking and everything else. And Donald Trump still enjoys a 42-point lead over Ron DeSantis in the state of Georgia. So what convinces you, Governor, that dynamic changes over the next several months, that somehow voters who have stood by Donald Trump and, in fact, in some cases intensified their support as they bought his case that he's a martyr and a victim in all this, what changes that dynamic?
I think what you're seeing right now, all of this stuff beforehand, Willie, in terms of the impact that his conduct and the subsequent charges are going to have on the election have been hypothetical. Now people are going to see what they really mean. They're going to mean that a candidate can't be out there campaigning. He's going to be tending to his own criminal trial in federal district court in the District of Columbia, his own criminal trial in Manhattan Supreme Court in New York. And those two cases, I think, are almost certain to both be tried before the election, even before the convention, I suspect, in this summer of 2024 coming up. And so when those things become real, and let's face it, all these polls now, I can tell you this, I've been at the Jersey Shore for a couple of days. Nobody is focusing on this election. They're focusing on the end of their summer, their last week of potential vacation, getting their kids ready to start the school year if they haven't done so already. The debate Wednesday was the starting gun in this race, and people are going to start to focus on it this fall. And when they do, Republicans are going to realize that nominating Donald Trump is going to be an enormous gift to the Democrats. And the Democrats are doing what they're doing because they want Donald Trump to be the nominee, because they know they can beat Donald Trump. And the reason they know they can is they already have.
So, Governor Christie, next year, when this thing really gets going, when the election really gets going, you've tried to make the case, and you're trying to make the case that you are the guy who can make the case against Joe Biden. So my question to you is, how does what's left of your political party, the remnants of the Republican Party, how do you make the case against Joe Biden when last week 6 of the 8 candidates for President of the United States standing alongside you on the stage indicated that they would vote for him, for Trump, even if he were a convicted felon? How do you convince the country that your party is still sane?
Because I didn't raise my hand, Mike. And the leader of the party sets the tone for the party. The leader of the party writes the hymnal that the rest of the party sings from. And I'm going to provide the type of leadership, first and foremost, that says the truth matters. The truth matters, no matter whether the truth is helpful to you politically one day or less helpful another day. The truth matters because the American people are tired of having a government that wastes their money, that doesn't provide results for them, given everything that they're providing to us in terms of their tax dollars. And I think those things are going to matter. And, you know, just in the same way that Donald Trump led aspects of our party astray because of his own personal conduct, his own self-absorption, and his own need to continue to pretend he was president even after he was defeated in 2020. New leadership can take our party in an entirely new direction. And so I absolutely believe in the fact that leaders make a difference. Leaders don't follow polls, Mike. They change them. And that's the kind of leader I intend to be. That's the kind of leader I was in New Jersey for 8 years as governor, in a very blue state where people said I'd never get elected in the first place. And I was coming on your show back then, you guys remember, and then they said I'd never get reelected, and I got reelected with 61% of the vote in a blue state, beating a female opponent with female voters, with winning a majority of the Hispanic vote in my state, winning 29% of the African American vote. That's the kind of coalition that could bring the country together and get the type of conservative results we need to get our country back on track. So I just believe leadership matters. It makes a difference. And if I didn't, Mike, I wouldn't be running for president.
Governor Christie, Elise Jordan here. You have chosen to attack Donald Trump more toughly, in a more robust way than any other candidate. And most Republican consultants, I'm sure, are saying, don't do that. It's Republican voters still like Donald Trump. It's very tough to actually win if you're attacking Donald Trump. How do you attack and still make headway in the polls?
Well, at least, look, I can tell you this. I have not been in the race even 3 months yet. And we've gone from 0 to 14% in the latest poll in New Hampshire. Clearly in second place, ahead of Ron DeSantis in fourth and Vivek Ramaswamy in third. And we're now within 20 points of Donald Trump in New Hampshire. He's only at 34%. And so, you know, what matters is the truth. And you can say I'm attacking Donald Trump, and I understand that's the way some people would look at it. But what I'm doing is telling the truth about Donald Trump. And I'm unafraid to do so. And that's why I didn't raise my hand on the stage on Wednesday night, because the minimum bar we should have for someone to be running for president of the United States is that they're not indicted or convicted of felonies. Let alone the underlying conduct that is in these, the classified documents case, the January 6th case. These are acts that are just beneath the office he held when he committed those acts when he was president, and the acts that he's committed since he was president are well beneath the bar we should have for anybody who aspires to be president again. So what I'm doing is telling the truth to folks, and I'm doing it in the way I've always done it. Absolutely looking into the camera like I'm looking this morning and telling people what I believe in my heart and what I know from my experience as a prosecutor. This guy is in big trouble. He's in big trouble because he did it to himself, and he's inflicting that damage now on our party and on our country. That's not right, and someone needs to stand up against that. I'm the one who's doing it, and by the way, that now has me in second place in New Hampshire, at least after not even 3 months. So I'm not nearly as pessimistic as some others are, and I know that I could turn that second place in New Hampshire into a win in New Hampshire, and when I do, this entire race will be turned on its head.
Governor Christie, good morning. Jonathan Lemire, you just said that the debate last week was sort of the starting point of this race. And we did see it had some impact in the polls. A few candidates saw the numbers go up a little bit. And we saw Donald Trump's go down, at least in a few state polls, Iowa in particular. There's a second debate looming in a few weeks at the Reagan Library in Southern California. Some in Trump's orbit have suggested he should reconsider and attend. What do you think? Is Donald Trump going to show up?
No, I don't think he'll show up at the Reagan Library debate, Jonathan. And the reason I don't is, again, his pettiness and everything to him is personal. And so he's had a conflict for the last 8 years with the Reagan Library. He's insulted that he hasn't been invited to speak there. He doesn't like the chairman of the Reagan Foundation. And, all of that is more important to Donald Trump than giving Republican voters an opportunity to hear all of the candidates who want to be president compare their views up on the stage. So, no, I don't believe he'll show up at the Reagan Library debate. But I keep my eye on the debate in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in October, because at that point he will have lost even more ground in the polls, in my view. And, that's all Donald Trump cares about, is looking at the latest poll that he can see and determining his conduct, not by what's right, not by what's fair to the Republican voters, but by what's he perceives in his personal interest. That's why he has no business being president again. But that's why I think he may show up in Alabama. But I do not expect to see him at the Reagan Library on September 27th.
We will see. Former New Jersey governor, Republican presidential candidate Chris Christie. Governor, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Willie, thanks for having me on. And everybody out there who wants the truth to be in this race, go to chrischristie.com and donate.
There it is. Governor, thank you.